very far from here, and you can hear almost anything you want to hear, and they will claim that it is the Word of God. They took it and they twisted it, they turned it, they removed things, they've added things, they made it say what they wanted to say, and that's what's passing for the Word of God today. But that is not the Word of God. The true Word of God has been lost.
Right.
It's been lost in the church because it's been lost in the individual. And because it's been lost in the individual, and therefore in the church, it's been lost in this nation. I've heard it said, I think by Jake many times, where was the Christian when they decided to take prayer out of the school? Where was the Christian when they decided to remove the Ten Commandments from the wall? Where was the Christian when they decided to make abortion legal? Where was the Christian when they decided to make gay marriage legal? Sitting in their churches with their mouths shut. Why? Because the Word of God was not what was directing them. The Word of God was not directing the church, because the Word of God was not directing the individual in the church. We sit and we oh me and we oh my, and that's terrible, and this world is in such bad shape. The Lord's going to soon come. And we do nothing. We talk. And that's what we do. What if Josiah would have just said, oh, this is terrible. I wish it wasn't like this, but what am I going to do? Israel would have gotten their judgment a lot sooner than they got their judgment, had he done that. This nation's getting its judgment because we've done that. They went and they found the Word of God. They found the law in the church. And listen to what happened to Josiah. He recognized something. He rent his clothes. Until we get to that kind of a point, until we get to that place where it really matters to us, nothing is going to happen. This troubled him. This broke his heart. This caused him to realize the state and the condition that they were in. He had such a desire to be what God wanted him to be that it broke his heart, and he rent his clothes. We realize it, at least in here, and what do we do about it? Talk about it. That's about it. He did more than just talk about it. He rent his clothes, and he commanded them to inquire of the Lord for me. And listen, in that time it was the priests and those who had to go to God on the people's behalf. We don't have to go to somebody else and say, go ask God what I are to do. We can do it ourselves. The middle wall partition has been broken down. We can go to God. And that's what we need to do. We need to realize where we are. And then we need to go to God and inquire of God, what should I do? He sent them to inquire of God concerning the words of the book. And he realized, great is the wrath of God. It's poured out on us because we have not kept the word of the Lord. You know what? You could say that today about the United States of America. Great is the wrath of God. It is poured out on us because we have not kept the word. That's why we are where we are. Why has this nation not kept the word? Because the church hasn't. The church hasn't because the Christian hasn't. Until we get to the point that Josiah got and realized that, listen, as was already said, we don't know when the Lord's coming. It might be a while. We need to do what we can do while it is day, because night comes when no man can work. Night ain't here yet. It might be dusky, but night ain't here yet. It might be drawing towards evening, but night ain't here yet. As long as the Lord has us in this world, there is opportunity. As long as the Lord has us in this world, there is hope. As long as the Lord has us in the world, there is a chance. If you would read this, we'll get to it. But God had every right to destroy Israel outright, because look, just reading it, and you go on and read before it and after it, just reading it, the nation was full of idols and groves and altars to false gods. God had every right to destroy them, but because somebody saw what was going on, and somebody realized the need, and somebody began to do something, God gave them a reprieve. God gave them a chance. God allowed them to come back. He is the same God yesterday, today, and forever. Who's to say that if somebody at the church, if the individual realizes where we are and realizes the need and rises up and begins to do something about it, can you sit there and tell me that God won't give us a chance? You can't tell me that. He is a God of chances. Read the Word over and over and over again. He's given chances. No, we don't deserve it. We are fortunate that God doesn't base things on what we deserve. If He did it for them, who's to say He won't do it for us? Josiah saw the need. He began to do something about it. He began to remove the evil, the ungodly thing. He got rid of those things. And then he turned to the church and began to try to put the church back where the church is supposed to be. We need to put the church today back where the church is supposed to be. It's not a social club. It's not an entertainment center. It's not a place where, let's see, how many opposing and different kinds of lifestyles we can get together. It's not what it is. It is the house of God. It is the place where the house, where the Word of God is supposed to go forth from. It is the place where the people of God are supposed to get prepared, are supposed to get equipped to go out and present the message and present Jesus Christ and Him crucified to a lost and a dying world. But it's become everything but that. If we would see the need as He saw the need, if I would start here and see the need and begin to remove those things from my life, and then the church would come together and begin to remove those things and begin to do what God has called us to do, and get back to living the Word of God, get back to proclaiming the truth of the Word of God, then things could change. Josiah sent them to inquire of the Lord because he realized this is why we are where we are. This is what he realized. We are where we are because we've neglected the Word. We are where we are because we've neglected the Word. Jake said it, I kind of reiterated it. This nation was founded on the Word. Israel was founded on the Word of God. The law of God. God said, now you're my people. This is how you're going to live. And He gave them the law. God said to us, as individuals, as the church, as the nation, this is my word. If you want to be prosperous, you want to be fruitful, you want to be blessed, this is how you live. Amen. And we said, I don't need that. It's exactly what Israel did. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have done. And that's why we are where we are. Listen, he said, great is the wrath of the Lord that is poured out upon us because our fathers had not kept the word of the Lord to do after all that is written in this book. And we may say, it ain't our fault, our fathers did it. He could have said that. I'm going to tell you something. When you know you're responsible, when you know you're accountable, he realized it. And therefore, he was responsible and he was accountable. And so he did something about it. And that's what we realize it, and we do nothing. We say, what can I do? No, I'm not the king, I'm not the ruler. I can't do what he did. But I can do something. Every one of us can do something. What it is, I don't know. Ask God. What is it you would have me do? It may be within your family. It may be within your community. It may be something else. I don't know. But everybody can do something if we have a desire to do something. We need to seek God and ask Him, what is it you would have me to do? And then do it. Don't just talk about it. It's easy to come here and say we should do this and we should do that. It's easy to do that. That changes nothing. We need to do as they did. Let's jump over to verse 29. I want to cover what we don't read there first. When they went to the prophets, and she told them that God had said that He was wrath with them, that He was angry with them. He said, I will bring evil upon them, upon the inhabitants of this place. I will bring curses upon them, because they have forsaken me and have burned incense unto other gods, and they have provoked me to anger with the works of their hands. Therefore my wrath shall be poured out on this place and shall not be quenched. They sent and inquired of God, and God said, I'm going to bring evil on you. I'm going to pour out my wrath on you because you have not obeyed, because you have not kept the word, because you have not followed the word. I am going to do that. It's an exact mirror image of the United States of America. What happened to Israel? What happened to them? Did one day they all wake up and say, let's all make God? No, it started out slowly, just like it did here. And nobody stood up and said no. Nobody stood up and said, hey, wait, you ain't going to do that. You can't do that. That goes against the Word of God. Nobody stood up and did that. Listen, for many, many years, and you've heard it over and over, I know, but for many, many years, we've come in our churches and shut the door and said, that's them and this is us. That's what has happened. We're supposed to make the difference. We're the salt. We're the light. We're supposed to make the difference, but we haven't done it. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. The salt does no good as long as it's in the shaker. It doesn't make a difference in the shaker. And that's what we are. We're salt in the shaker. We gather in our churches, but we're not being dumped out on the world. We're not making a difference there. And because of that evil has grown worse and worse. Read the Bible. In the last days, it's going to get worse and worse. And we see that coming. But why is it going to get worse and worse? Because the salt has stayed in the shaker. Because we haven't made a difference. We haven't stood up against it. But listen what was said here. The prophet has told them that because they have forsaken God, burned incense to other gods, that He's going to pour out His wrath on them. Verse 26, as for the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of the Lord, so shall ye say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel concerning the words which thou hast heard, because thine heart was tender, and thou didst humble thyself before God, when thou heardest His words against this place and against the inhabitants thereof, humble thyself before me, and did rend thy clothes, and weep before me. I have even heard thee, also saith the Lord. Behold, I will gather thee to thy fathers, and thou shalt be gathered to thy grave in peace. Neither shall thine eyes see the evil that I will bring upon this place and upon the inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word again. What's all that saying? The king saw the need. He stood up. He did what was necessary. He rent his clothes. He wept over it. He had a broken heart over it. And God said, because you do that, I'm going to bless you. Even if nobody else will have anything to do with it, even if nobody else will accept it, even if my judgment's going to fall on them, I'm still going to bless you. If we do what God has called us to do, even in the midst of perilous times, even in the midst of evil, we can still be blessed. If we will, but give ourselves to God and give ourselves to the work of God and make the effort, God will still bless us. We won't have to suffer along with those who are being judged. We can still be blessed. In verse 29, then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the house of the Lord, and all the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests, and the Levites, and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the book of the covenant that was found in the house of the Lord. And the king stood in his place and made a covenant before the Lord to walk after the Lord and to keep his commandments and his testimonies and his statutes with all his heart and with all his soul, to perform the words of the covenant which are written in this book. He caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of God, the God of their fathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of the countries that pertained to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve the Lord their God. In all his days they departed not from following the Lord, the God of their fathers. Jump to chapter 35. Moreover, Josiah kept the Passover unto the Lord in Jerusalem. And it goes on talking about that, keeping the Passover. But what we find, if we go on ahead, that as long as Josiah was alive, and they kept the word of God, Israel was blessed. Israel was not punished. But if you go on ahead, let me read it to you real quick. After Josiah, we have Jehoiakim, who reigned. He was 8 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. And that's when Nebuchadnezzar came and conquered them and took them captive. As long as Josiah was king, and as long as they adhered to the word of God, Israel was blessed. But once they turned back again, then Nebuchadnezzar came and conquered them and took the captives, and all those things happened. Here's the point that I want to make. Because Josiah saw the need and did something about it and stood up and proclaimed the word of the Lord and began to live the word of the Lord, they had a reprieve. As long as they stuck to the word of God and lived the word of God, they were blessed. As soon as they turned again, they were punished. The wrath of God was poured out on them. This is the point I want to make. How do we know God won't do that for this nation? By all rights, he could have destroyed them before Josiah saw the need. Because they were filled, the land was filled with idols and groves and altars and all those kind of things. It was filled with, God could have destroyed them, but he didn't. Josiah rose up, saw the need, began to do something about it, began to live godly, began to follow the word of God, brought the word of God back to the people, and the people began to follow the word of God. And as long as they did, they were blessed. They got a reprieve. Maybe, just maybe, God would do that for us. And probably there are people that are thinking, whether here or hearing this online or whatever, probably thinking that ain't going to happen. That's limiting God. That's shackling the hands of God. God can do it. God is a God of mercy. As I already said, God is a God of chances. He gave them another chance. Who's to say that if we don't get ourselves back to where we're supposed to be, that God won't give us another chance? We don't know that. And therefore, we have to try. Because we are called to try. There towards the end where I was reading, it said that he followed the words of God. And that's what we need to do. That's where we need to be. If we want to see a difference in our individual lives, if we want to see a difference in our churches, if we want to see a difference in our nation, that's the only way it's going to happen. I don't care who you elect to the presidency. I don't care what happens on the Supreme Court. I don't care who's in Congress. It ain't going to make a difference until this nation gets back to God. Until this nation begins to adhere to the law of God, to the Word of God. The Bible teaches you can go and you can find it yourself. Blessed is that nation whose God is the Lord.
Amen.
But that nation that will not follow God, it shall be destroyed. It's up to us.
That's right.
Who are we going to be? What nation are we going to be? What if I do all this and it still don't make a difference? It will make a difference. I'll guarantee you it'll make a difference. If nowhere else, here. Mm-hmm. The prophet has told them, because Josiah has done all this, he will be blessed. Whether anybody else is or not, he will be. If I give myself fully to God, and to the Word of God and follow the precepts of God and make an effort to get that to other people, then I will